Welcome to Old Horse Racing All the Time, where we bring you fresh new horse racing information every single day. I'm Alan, your host. What I'm going to be bringing you here is a Bluegrass Stakes recap and its Kentucky Derby implications, and there are many, or at least big ones. And we're going to take a look at the current 20 horses that qualify for the Kentucky Derby as of today and who I believe are the win contenders out of those 20 and why. Okay, Bluegrass Stakes, final major prep race, 100 point rate, 100 points to the winner, 50 to second. There are a bunch of horses on the bubble out there. And what happened? Burnham Square turns around, wins the race, gets the 100 points, catapults to the top spot. Beautifully run race. East Avenue, the real East Avenue, I guess he showed up because he'd won at Keeneland before in the Futurity, and he turned around. They let him rip, went to the front, and damn near hauled on. Some say that not changing leads cost him the photo for the top spot. Looked tremendous. And what happened is he does qualify for the Kentucky Derby now with the second place finish. So aside for the money for getting first, he did everything he set out to do by getting into the Kentucky Derby, needed a second and got it. And then River Thames did cement a Kentucky Derby spot with a third place finish. He might have not got the quickest of starts, but he did get the points he needed to wind up in a tie in the point standings, and he won some of the tiebreakers, and he's going to qualify right now. So Todd Pletcher in the Derby as of right now, so in the top 20. What are the Kentucky Derby implications? Well, one of them I see right now is this Kentucky Derby, maybe this one more than most, is going to qualify. There's going to be a little luck that's involved. That's going to probably be involved to decide who the winner is going to be out of this race. It's not a slam dunk where you have one horse that is so much faster than the others. It's a very competitive group of horses. Yeah, Journalism and Citizen Bull, they stand out a bit. Journalism does have the best recent numbers, speed numbers. So he jumps out there. No slam dunk, though, by any stretch of the imagination. So let's take a look at the point leaders. What I think of these, why I think they're either a contender or not, and it's not going to take long. We go right down this. I've looked at this list, and the Derby picture is going to get a lot clearer now. And let's take a look. These are the current leaders right now. And I found this current leader, believe it or not, of all the horse racing sources that have these, this is the best one as far as breaking down the list because it includes the tiebreakers, etc., and the cutoff point on there. I'm waiting for some of the other horse racing sites to come up with this, but Wikipedia, it does. And right now, we'll go down the list. Burnham Square, okay, suddenly jumps to the top of the point list, and with one big win. Is he a Derby contender? Yeah, I thought he was. He's been very solid all along. He has numbers that fit this, that even just a little bit of a step forward, he'll be in good shape. He's coming in there. He'll be coming in running at a decent clip. Fairly lightly raced recently, but spaced apart. And he's fast. Although he closed to win yesterday, he also has enough early speed that he shouldn't get in too much trouble and be able to have his kick. He's shown his closing kicks, even in defeat in some of his prior races. Yesterday, he came out. The 1 mile and an eighth suits him, and I believe the mile and a quarter. This one has the breeding, and he's definitely a contender. Number 2, Sandman, big-time closer, very long strides, covers a lot of ground late. He is a Kentucky Derby contender for the win spot. That's number 2. And number 3, Journalism. Of course, we all know about Journalism, so we'll move on to Rodriguez. Rodriguez seemed to be getting it together. Blinkers off for Baffert, makes the adjustment, wires the field over at the Wood. So the real Rodriguez looks like he shows up. And I see him as a contender. Definitely a good Derby contender here. People have been very high on this horse, and this time they said, Bob says this one has a little bit of immaturity. He seemed to mature. He handled the travel well, came out of the race in good shape, and he wasn't acting up as much. More business, and the blinkers off definitely seemed to help his running style. He seemed more relaxed. Mike Smith, nothing but praise for the horse. for those reasons I just talked about. To number, so you, out of the first four, I see all of them as legitimate Derby win contenders. Tistastic, Tappan Street, no, I don't see them as win contenders. I don't believe they're fast enough. Others with similar running styles are faster, suits the position. But we'll get back to what I see happening in the Derby. Sovereignty, excellent closing kick, strong horse. The distance is going to help this one. I see this one as another closer, strong closer that definitely has a shot. So right now we're at 5. Final Gambit. I'm not going to beat this one to death. Not fast enough. Out of there as a win contender. Cold Battle on the bubble. I see him as second tier, so I'm not going to talk about him as a win contender right now. As far as the Cold Battle, the lovely story, but we got to be serious. This is not about sentiment here. Cold Battle, no, second tier. So we're still at 5 here, and we're going to go down a little bit further. Chunk of Gold, no way. Let's save time here. Citizen Bull. Citizen Bull now is looking better than ever. What do you mean, Al? He's looking better than ever. He just came in 4th place in the Santa Anita Derby. Well, that was a ridiculous pace. That's not going to happen in the Kentucky Derby. That was an aberration. And Citizen Bull now might be the one, depending on his post position, to grab the early lead and possibly be a wire threat if you can open it up a little bit. This horse breaks great out of the gate. And I believe this one will have a bit of a shot, maybe not the best shot, but definitely a contender. If there's a wire threat, it's him. If he can get an inside post 4 or 5, somewhere around there, where he can get quickly to the rail, save ground, and let it rip, kind of like East Avenue did yesterday, and hope for the best. And the other thing good is he was lightly raced, hadn't raced in a while coming into the Santa Anita Derby. So now he's not an exhausted horse that's been through a really rough campaign, and he's still developing. And of course, you got Bob Baffert. So this one, post position is going to be play a part. Okay, so that's number 6 as far as Derby contenders goes. 5, was I at 5 or 6? 5. Was it 5? 6. Okay, 6. Owen Almighty, indications now are he might go to the Wood. Not the Wood, the Pat Day Mile. Pat Day Mile will fit this horse much better. It would be greedy to take up a spot in the Kentucky Derby, sending Owen Almighty to there. He's better off at the Pat Day Mile. We saw that when faced with some serious speed. Yesterday it was East Avenue. Next time it will be Citizen Bull. Owen Almighty will not be grabbing any leads, and it looks like he's not able to get the distance either. At least he wasn't able to get the mile and an eighth. It fell apart, put on a bold show, but if it was a mile race, he'd be around. Maybe. We're going to have some other speeds. They're talking about maybe Cornucopian going to the Pat Day Mile. Let's see what happens there. And there's another one really fast. Innovator is probably looking at the Pat Day Mile. Those horses are fast as lightning early. So who even knows if Owen Almighty is no shoe-in in the Pat Day Mile either. I don't see him as a Kentucky Derby contender. Let's see what happens if they keep him in this. Hopefully not for his breeding rights. I don't know. I think we'll probably see him depending on what happens in his next race. If it's a Derby, I think it might be a disaster. If it's the Pat Day Mile, maybe, and then you can step forward to the Preakness. Or maybe they just hold off on him and send him to the Preakness from here. No, not a contender. East Avenue, he's kind of like Cold Battle. Can he win the Derby like Cold Battle? Maybe, but I see him as second tier. So we'll stay standing at 6. Go down to American Promise. Wayne Lucas is involved. I like what he did. He did set that track record in his last race. And all right, and you got Wayne Lucas involved. Has a nice running style. Chased the speed, overtook him. So this one has the running style and the connections and the trainer. I see this one as a contender, at least as of right now, 7. And another thing about that contenders list, why I say luck comes into this as much as ever. River Thames does get in. Now, there was a 4-way tie for 50 points. Flying Mohawk and Grande The other Pletcher entry, they're going to need some help. They're going to have either people connections for whatever reasons not running the Derby. At least two of them are going to have to come out of there to get Flying Mohawk and Grande in there. Flying Mohawk, I think it's a toss. Who knows if the owner even decides to send him as an AE? We'll get to that in a second too, how these AEs work. Okay, so we're at 7 Derby possible contenders. River Thames. No, I wasn't thrilled with what I saw from this one yesterday, and I believe others are better. Todd Pletcher and Windstorm. No, he's not there. Flood Zone, absolutely not. Got crushed over in Dubai. Does get in with the 50. Did win the Gotham Stakes. I don't see him as a win contender there. Brad Cox was standing. Luxor Cafe, tremendous. This one might be the best closer out of them and most explosive of the others. When I say the others, I'm talking Sandman and Sovereignty. Luxor Cafe in the mix. Watch out on this one. He is comes from Japan, won the Fukuyu Stakes to qualify in the Japanese point system. So that's 8. The other 2 that came out of the race that Flood Zone was in, the Dubai 100-point qualifier last weekend, Admiral Daytona and Heart of Honor. I thought Heart of Honor, it was a slow race. I can't back them as contenders, either of those as contenders either. So with Luxor Cafe, I see 8 as the Kentucky Derby contenders. Why the luck? Why the luck in this? I see the speed. We're not going to have as many early speeds as was earlier, just a few weeks ago, was anticipated, with a lot of them being knocked out of there. You get Speed King out of there. He looked like with just more decent race, he was going to be out there setting a wicked pace. And of course, Cornucopian didn't get in there. And Medacket Road, what happened to Medacket Road? He is out. Now he's one of those horses on the bubble there. And I don't even know if Bob would want to send him over there and possibly wreck Citizens Bull's chances by having this guy run loose. But hey, if his connections want to send him and they decide to send him over there as an AE, maybe. But post position is really going to come into play in this Kentucky Derby. Make me break. Journalism gets stuck in the one post position one, or gets stuck way out, gets interfered with early. Luck is going to come in as it usually does, but the horses are so tight this year as far as the actual speed of them go, that you're going to need a good post position, and you're going to have to get a good, hopefully not get interfered with, get a good trip. So I don't see any slam dunk winners in here at all. Not even journalism. Where's journalism? Where's the best post position for him? Probably somewhere where he's not going to, where hopefully he doesn't get interfered with. I remember the year that Big Brown drew post 20. That was the best thing that could have happened to Big Brown. He broke from 20. They say, oh, it's a kiss of death post 20. But here you had a horse with an excellent running style and enough speed to make a move or go to the front if he wanted to, that he's not going to get interfered with out there in post 20. And he didn't. And he ran a race, and he ran away with the damn race. I could see journalism almost benefiting from a way outside post like that, angling in outside of the early speeds, and clean trip, boom. Maybe he just continues on his way. But we'll see. That's not going to happen. We're going to have to wait. And as far as the closers go, we have some tremendous closers here. Sandman, Sovereignty, Luxor Cafe. We have the early speed, and it's going to come down to the post. And keep an eye, when you're doing your Kentucky Derby handicapping, keep an eye on the fractions horses are running. And, maybe more than just the last race, but a couple of them, what they usually run, their closing time, their closing time, their late fraction, the closing fraction, how they can get how they are at the distance, and the same thing with middle and early pace. So keep an eye on that. And now the AEs, I said I was going to get to those, also eligibles. How does that work? Okay, the ones they get in order now. The ones with first shot here, Grande had that valiant effort after, a rough start, slow start. In the wood, Todd Pletcher, Rapoli. Is Rapoli going to be in the Derby this year? Not unless he gets a break and a couple of the ones exit out of there, out of the top 20, because right now he's number 22 there on the list. And you got the other ones, the three Japanese and the 2 Euros. So he's going to need something to get in there. Getaway car. Bob Baffert, even though he had 46, he said before even yesterday's race that he's bypassing the Derby. He's not going there to the Derby. So next up, Medoc Road. Is Bob going to want to send him to the Derby? I don't know, but we'll see. But how's this work? And then it goes down in order, all these other horses. Chancer McPatrick, yesterday was a disaster for him. A lot of Chad Brown, they had high hopes for this one, so gets stuck at 35 points. He's not in there. So some things there. Built was kicked out. He was within the top 20 earlier, as was Neckhos for Safi Joseph Jr. But these are all now, they need help. And how does that work? If a horse wants to qualify, they don't just say, hey, you qualify now, you can get in. What's his name dropped out. It doesn't work. It's not that simple to be an AE in the Kentucky Derby. You want to be considered for an AE and get one of those spots if the other horses drop out. What you have to do is have your horse there on the grounds over there in Kentucky, right there over by Churchill. Have him over there and a week before the race. And that's a commitment. Some horses, some of these entries that are on the AE, potential AEs, they opt not to even go. You got the cost, the travel, then maybe you want to train him at the track, and he doesn't get in. All this for a wish and a prayer. You got to keep your fingers crossed to get in there for somebody else to scratch. Yeah, it sometimes happens, but how many want to go in there as an AE and go through the expense, the time, the travel, the cost, and the possibility, very rare possibility that nobody scratches and the whole trip was a waste of time. So we're going to see there. I got to think Rapoli and Pletcher would be one of them. And right now they just need one or two of those to scratch out. And who knows, maybe Owen Almighty backs out as it is, opening the door for at least the first one. And Flying Mohawk, do they really want to send this horse over there as an AE into the Derby? I wouldn't. I can't say. Maybe the owners, they're very ambitious about this, and they're hoping for him to get a shot in the Derby just to say he was in it. Is it in the best interest of the horse? I don't know, but that's how it works. So at least if you get a couple of scratches in there out of these, which, you always hear about this, what's his name scratched out of the Derby. Sometimes some years more than others. Maybe this year's the year nobody scratches out. That's how the AEs work. If you want an AE spot, potential to get in, you got to ship them over there. So what do I see? Anything else here on that? I think that sums it up. I don't see any differences in the point standings from the last Kentucky Derby prep race, the Lexington Stakes over at Keeneland. 20 to the winner, 8 to second. Nothing's going to affect anything here as far as these entries goes. It looks like these top 20 should be locked in for now. Stay tuned. Anyway, maybe something happens. Stay tuned. We'll know for sure 100% this Kentucky Derby entries. We'll learn more over the next 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks leading up to that when they have to ship into Kentucky, who the AEs are going to be. Let's see how's the health of the horses, the other horses that are already qualified. Does something come up? And, heavens forbid, whatever reasons they decide the horse isn't running or they took a bad step, so he's out of the Derby. So we're going to be finding out a lot more about that over the next couple of weeks. Who's really going to be going out of the ones that qualify, and who are the ones that are serious about becoming an AE. How many of them are we going to have on that list? So what do you think? Leave your comments down below. Thanks for watching, everybody. It is going to be a blast going forward. These prep races have been fantastic. Best of luck if you're playing today. Win big, and may the horse be with you.